cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome into the View from C-Deck. Kaci and I are a little bit sidetracked here with this Michigan State and Kentucky game ruining our CFP podcast. So we're going to go ahead and do the betting lines now, get them out of the way before the rankings come out. And if we mess up our own rules, you won't even know because you don't even know what our rules are for what games we pick. But big slate, I guess, kind of. SEC playing their normal shit schedule the week before their rivalry weeks. But a little mini rivalry week here for a couple teams, USC and UCLA playing. TCU and Baylor's become a bit of a rivalry over the years. So it should be a pretty solid week of football. And as always, with our betting picks, we will start with Ohio State, though. And both of us have picked, three of us, we did get the Haas's handies in this week, finally. Wherever you are, Haas, you keep complaining that you're not on the show, and people are craving you, yet here you are not again. But we all three picked Ohio State to cover what is now a 27.5-point spread against Maryland. I think Maryland's general shittiness in big games has a lot to do with it, for me anyway.
I don't like to hear that we all three picked it.
I know. It almost switched my pick.
But yeah, I'm thinking the 27.5. I like that number. It's just shy of those 4 touchdowns. I see us putting up a ton of points, establishing that run game. Really depends on what running backs are in, I guess, but it shouldn't really matter. I could see them scoring on us, though, because they have a good passing attack. If Tua is healthy, he seems like he's been hobbled.
Not Tua, Talia.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. But he's playing, obviously, but he hasn't been the same the last few weeks. So that's kind of another reason why I picked us. But you never know. We always get everybody's best punch. If they put up 21 on us, then covering that might be a little difficult. But if we hold them to 10, which I think we could, then I think we cover easy.
Sparty about to get the win, by the way, in this basketball game. And I think the over is the play too on 64.5. Looks like the weather's going to be decent too. It's 46 is what they're calling for, and not a ton of wind, no rain. We should be good to go. This offense should be good to fly. And Day said that he expects that it's possible that all of Mayan Williams, Travion Henderson, everybody's back. I don't believe that for a second. All right. Keeping an eye on the enemy, though. We're only a week away from another game of the century. 2 undefeated. Michigan, Ohio State will be the 15th top 5 matchup, I believe, between us. 24th top 10 matchup all time, which is the records by far in both. They host Illinois, though, who was the darling of the West and looked like they were going to come out, and they've just stepped all over their own dick the last couple of weeks. And Michigan's an 18-point favorite, and we went head-to-head on this one, I do believe. I took Michigan to cover. I think they're sharp. I think it's like you see this all the time when Big Ten teams play Georgia or Alabama that like to run the ball. They've run into a better version of themselves. I think Illinois is just running into a better version of themselves this week, and I think that makes Michigan roll. And I think both Michigan and Ohio State want to be sharp going into next week, so I expect them to both to come out and play close to their game. So I'll take Michigan winning by 24, something like 34-10, maybe worse than that.
Yeah, they are very similar teams. They're both top 5 in the country in rushing. They're both top 5 in rushing defense. Is Chase Brown out?
I don't know if he's out or not.
Yeah, that's a big factor, but I'm just looking at that number we keep seeing. The past 5 games, Michigan 170 whatever to 3 in the second half, which is very impressive, but I think that has a lot to do with because they have to do that because they're always in tight games at halftime. And I don't know. I think Illinois' rush defense could really, if they can contain Corum, it could be, I could see it being tied or even behind at half. And if that's the case, covering 18 or 19 against Illinois might be a little tricky. So I think they're going to win, but I'm thinking it'll be more like a 13-point type of game.
Yeah, we both have this game as our pick, but that's one that we go head-to-head against. Oh man, I cannot wait till freaking next week. I cannot wait. I got a special pod I'll talk to you about later. Also at noon, basically all the teams that have there's like 5 games involving teams that have a shot at making the playoff of the like 8 teams that have a shot. All at noon. Tennessee and South Carolina, though. Tennessee going down to South Carolina. South Carolina's had some solid wins. They've been pretty clearly, I think, the 3rd best team in the East, in the SEC East. Well, I guess them or Florida. It's pretty even. But I believe they just beat Florida, so they're getting 21.5 at home. I know Tennessee probably wants to run up the score a bit to look good, but I think South Carolina is actually a legit team, and this is a game that could easily fall into a trap for Tennessee. So I'm taking the points. I think they win, but maybe just by 21. And it keeps Hooker in the Heisman race, though. But yeah, I think South Carolina I got the cover, and that's a Haas handy as well. So you got a junk handy there coming your way.
If I were to pick it, I think I'd actually pick Tennessee because of what we've touched on previously, that they got to blow the doors off people, get all the style points they can, because they don't exactly control their own destiny to make it.
Right.
But if the cards fall, if it doesn't go chalk, they're basically in, I think. We've said in the previous podcast, whether it's right or not, if TCU loses one game and even if they lose and then win the Big 12, or if they're undefeated and lose in the Big 12 championship, I still think Tennessee might get in over them. So it does have to go chalk for them to not get in, I think. But they're probably thinking we got to get all the style points we can. It is on the road, 21.5. It's a scary number because they could win by 21 and just not cover. But if I had to, I would pick Tennessee.
Yeah, this has backdoor cover written all over it. Yeah, I'm not sure how much they do. They control their own destiny, but I think USC controls it over them, and maybe Clemson or Carolina. I doubt Carolina gets in over them because of how weak their schedule was in the division. But it could be interesting, especially if LSU doesn't win. Almost LSU winning the SEC championship, I think, helps Tennessee get in more so. If not, that win gets devalued a little bit more.
Yeah.
All right.
If
so
LSU
Clemson.
LSU can't make it in if without Tennessee making it in.
Right. Correct. Yeah. So another team that I just mentioned, Clemson hosting Miami also at noon. 19-point favorites, one of their biggest spreads of the year. Definitely the biggest spread I think in conference so far. Maybe Boston College, they were 20.5 because I remember picking that game and getting that game. And I think Miami has really struggled on the road this year. They've gotten their doors blown off their last 2 road games against teams that are definitely worse than Clemson. Clemson had a decent bounce back. Louisville's not a bad team, and they beat them 31-16 last week. So it's not like they're likely to cover the spread via offense, but they can do it, and I think they do it, and I win. I think like something like 31-10 and a 21-point win sounds good to me for Clemson this week as they try to keep their hopes alive and get into the playoff, backdooring their way in.
Yeah, they're kind of on the same boat as Tennessee, but to a even larger extent, where you think LSU has a good chance, can make it. I mean, they can, but really there's 7 teams that have a realistic shot of making it. If I don't count LSU, and Clemson would be 7th out of 7. So they need to do everything they can to at least get some sort of, if they somehow win like 52-10 or something, then they'll be, might pop some eyes on that committee.
Yeah.
If I had to pick this game, I'd probably go with Clemson for that reason.
I don't know if Haas picked that one. He did pick this. No, he didn't pick this next game. All of us stayed away from the TCU game, the other noon game, the 5th of them. The team that has to win for sure, the most probably the most riding in their game. And Zach Baylor's become a bit of a rival over the years with them since they joined the Big 12. Only 2.5-point favorites is TCU. Now, that would normally seem like the scary line, unranked team against the number 4 team in the country that's undefeated. But they've had every TCU line like this where they're either underdogs or 2 teams that are inferior, like Texas last week. That was some easy money for me last week, I thought. and now they're going to Baylor. Barely the favorites, but it's weird that I kind of want to pick Baylor, even though I've been picking TCU to make the playoff. I keep picking them. The bracket's getting announced right now for Casey. Getting ready to do it. But I think I'll take Baylor, but I'll take TCU to win by a point to keep my my five there. Like 24-23, TCU comes back and wins at the very end. Keeps pissing off everybody in SEC land that's hoping to get Tennessee in the game.
I'll keep riding the ballsy picks because eventually they got to pay you off. I would
said every gambler ever.
Yeah. I will say that Texas game, it was a tight game, and I don't think anybody expected Ewers to absolutely crap his pants and that offense not being able to do a damn thing. So, I mean, that game, I don't think that game went at all how anybody expected it to be. I mean, that over-under, I think, was in the 60s. And
I think they had some weather down there, a little bit of wind, a little bit cold.
Ended up being, what, 21-14?
17-10, I think.
17-10?
Yeah. It was low scoring. It was real low scoring. Yeah, 17-10 is what it was.
And they only got 7 off of a pick 6, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't have an offensive touchdown. Texas did.
Oh, Texas, yeah. Speaking of Texas, they travel to Lawrence, Kansas, but are still favorites, as Kansas still doesn't get the respect in the but they both have the same record, 6-4. Who'd have thought that coming in to this season? And Kansas has beaten Texas a few times over the past few years. This is a Haas handy, which is the only reason we're talking about this damn game. Also a nooner. He's got Kansas plus the points, though, and I think I like that because I'm not a believer in Texas now, and I think they are really teetering on the edge of crashing and burning and Steve Sarkisian getting fired.
I've been all over them all year because of my parlay. And
look what they did. Look what they did. They blew you up.
And I saw a stat I think it was like they are 1-10 in the past 11 years of covering the season-long over-under win total. So Texas is back, baby.
There are obvious reasons for that, though. One is because they're a big school, and the action's coming in, so you got to set it a little higher.
True, but 1-10, that's insane.
That is insane.
11.5 point win totals like Ohio State does.
All right, one more noon game, just one more, I promise. It's Casey getting his new team, his new betting favorite, riding everybody playing against Northwestern. So Purdue at home against Northwestern, only giving up 20. Almost seems like ballsy pick territory to me because Northwestern's been so bad and Purdue's playing well and controls their own destiny, I think.
I don't know. I still don't know, but that was part of my...
They don't, but they do. Well, they don't, really.
I have no idea who controls their own destiny. There's like 4 teams that seem like they do.
Assuming, well, they all kind of do at the moment. But assuming Illinois loses to Michigan, then it matters who wins the Iowa and Minnesota game this week.
Yeah. But that another my reasoning was Purdue has. I mean, they're probably telling themselves, we control our own destiny. We beat this. We win this game. We win the next game. Who knows? We can win the Big Ten. So 20.5 Northwestern is shit. We did not make them look shit because of that hurricane going through, tornado or whatever you want to call it. But that was an outlier type of game. They're trash. I see them scoring no more than 7 points against Purdue. So I like that number. Bet against Northwestern.
Bet against Northwestern. I'm with you there. Bet against Northwestern right now. Unless it is, if it gets windy there in West Lafayette, it could be.
Yeah.
Could ground that offense a bit. We're not going to talk about that Iowa-Minnesota game. I think Iowa wins it and takes over. They do control their own destiny if they win that game and Illinois loses. Let's see. We get down to these 3:30 games. Them dogs, Georgia, 22.5 point favorites going to Kentucky. They look like a number 1 team every time they've been playing lately, blowing teams out. They're back to being cover machines, and I think they continue it. Kentucky, losers to Vandy last week at home. Ouch. That does open up the I think every team now in the country has a conference win in P5, which is not usually the case.
Vanderbilt had a streak of like, I don't know how many games, but I saw like a Michigan number with like how we would have how X amount of days since they beat us or whatever.
Yeah.
They had like 1,100 days since they won a conference game or something.
2019.
Yeah. They're still ranked in the AP. Kentucky is.
Yeah.
That was one of mine, right?
No, are they still ranked?
They were in the AP when I looked. I thought they were like 24.
I think that's last week. They were ranked 24 last week. You're looking at they put the CFP ones up all the time now.
I'm pretty sure I double checked it because I saw Texas was still ranked too. Maybe they didn't have it. I don't know.
No, they're not ranked.
Okay.
I was like, there's no way. They're not ranked. They're not ranked in either poll. They actually don't even have a vote in the AP poll. They got 8 points in the coaches poll.
This was one of my picks, correct?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I
you
felt
picked
about it because Georgia's
Yeah.
coverage machine, and we've touched on it in the last podcast that Kentucky's one of those overhyped teams that were kind of like Kansas early on, and they've just completely come back down to earth. Georgia's could come into this lightly because they already, I mean, they got big heads right now. Everybody's touting them. They're obviously the best team in the country, so I could see them letting down a little bit, but I like them to cover this.
Yeah. All right. You got that Penn State line? Because I don't have it, and you picked them.
I think I texted you the number, didn't I?
Yeah, you do, but I want to look at the game. I'll just use yours. You got Penn State minus 19 playing Rutgers this week. Is this a bet against Rutgers? Yeah, it's Rutgers because they played Michigan State last game.
Yeah, this is a combination bet against Rutgers. Penn State is probably hoping they can potentially still make a New Year's Six bowl. I mean, their only 2 losses are top 3 teams. They're probably telling themselves they have a lot to play for. Rutgers sucks. Penn State is easily the 3rd best team in the conference. So I see them covering that easy, putting a smack down on Rutgers.
I'll take Rutgers. Let's go, baby. Let's go. It's on the road. They've been not nearly as good on the road this year, and that's about all I got though. It seems like too low of a spread. To be honest.
Yeah.
So that's my thinking. just to go against you. All right. Big game at night in the Pac-12. One of a huge one to define who's going to go to the Pac-12 championship game. Because if USC wins, obviously they clinch. The USC and UCLA just had the choke job of the century against Arizona last week. Definitely got caught looking ahead to this game. My rankings that I've made like them a lot. Let's see if they fell. Oh, they fell really far. Penn State's number 11, Oregon to 12 in the poll right now. Carolina at 13. That's interesting. They're moving up. Past Ole Miss, past Kansas State at 15. What? They trying to help out TCU there? I think so.
What's Kansas State's record? They have 3 losses?
Yeah, 7-3. Let's think about this real quick. They'd be knocking on the doorstep of a wild card spot in the 12-team playoff. Yuck. Anyway, USC, UCLA. UCLA getting 1.5 points at home, but they're both from LA, so who cares? Oh, it's 10 Utah. Do I announce this live to you or no? No, we'll wait. I'll announce the top 6 live to you. USC, UCLA. I got UCLA though. I don't think USC is actually that good. They've had a lot of close games against not so great teams. They've lost. It was tough on the road, albeit to Utah. But I think UCLA is better in the trenches, and I think they end up winning the game. They wear out USC's defense, and USC's offense doesn't quite keep up with them. And I think it's similar to the Utah game, something like 42-40 or something like that.
This one's a toss-up for me, for sure. It's like a 50-50. That's why the spread's so damn low. But I would hedge towards USC in this one. And it's like I don't even know who I want to win because USC loses, Pac-12's done. But that could essentially help the SEC get 2 teams. But if we were to lose to Scum, it could help us get in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think USC runs this gauntlet at the end of the season either way. I think they lose one here of the UCLA, Notre Dame, and big Pac-12 championship game. The other, we'll hit on LSU real quick here just because they're in contention according to me. Only 14.5-point favorites against UAB. Now that is ballsy pick territory for sure. UAB not bad, but a team that's probably going to play for the SEC championship and supposedly a contender, only being 14.5-point favorites at home against UAB. And kind of a tough game last week where they almost lost to Arkansas, only won by 3. Do I go ballsy pick? No, I don't think I do. LSU. I'll take LSU there.
Last week was a ballsy pick, and I think it would have worked out because
I picked them. It was a push when we picked it, but it went to 3.5 before the game.
That's right, and they won by 3.
Yeah.
I
went 3-1-1 with a nice big fat push.
Yeah.
Second time this year I've done that.
I think I was 2-3. So.
All right. And the last game we'll talk about Utah and Oregon. We'll knock this out real quick because then we can do this as it gets revealed. Ducks get brought back to earth by Washington last week. I thought their renaissance, their phoenix rising from the ashes of the Georgia game story was a little overblown to me because if you looked at their schedule, like basically only UCLA was the only decent team they'd even beaten in that stretch. So I've been a believer in Utah before the season started, and I'm gonna stick with Utah now. I'll take Utah plus the points. Maybe it ends up closer than that, but I think they're just a more physical team than Oregon. And while Bo Nix is having a blast, he's not going to be having enough of a blast to win that game.
Yeah, this one is the Pac-12 top 2 go.
Yep.
This one decides who goes, right? As the second seed, I guess depends on UCLA.
Yeah,
USC.
It's basically like a semifinal, though. You're right.
Yeah. So and they just got beat, but I would tend to pick Oregon. I would. They do. It's ironic the way you said rising from the ashes because it's kind of similar to our story last year where we lose to Oregon, then win. We're right back in the playoff picture, and then boom,
we have that.
And that's basically exactly what just happened to Oregon, except a couple weeks earlier than ours did.
Yeah. I think the way it works out, though, is if UCLA wins, this game could be a rematch, this Utah-Oregon game. Utah would have to win. But then I think Oregon would have the tiebreakers because they beat UCLA.
Oh.
They still have tiebreakers. Trying to see. Top 5 is exactly how you think it'd be right now. Georgia, State, Michigan, TCU, Tennessee.
Where's Alabama?
8th. Still ahead of Clemson. Clemson 9.
See, I don't think Clemson can make it then, man. I don't see it.
Why wouldn't they pass Bama once they win the title?
No, they will. But the fact that they're keeping them there, like, I don't know. If chaos happens, they can make it.
Yeah. I can't see it. You can't drop Bama after they beat what they consider a top 11 team. But again, it's that circular reasoning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're getting down. So, our 4 picks, now that I've told you at least the top 5, LSU is 6th. So, everybody basically moved up the spot that Oregon vacated. And, yeah, USC 7.
USC will 100% jump them, though, if they keep winning.
Yes. Yeah, if they win the next 2 weeks, they'll be ahead of them going into conference championship week. I would agree with that, yeah.
And then the question would be, they'll have 1 loss, and then LSU will have the best win in the country if they beat Georgia. So would they USC? I don't think they should because they have 2 losses, but I would not.
USC's not going to play a scrub in the Pac-12 title game either.
True, but they're not Georgia.
Yeah, but I'm gonna stick with my picks. I think Georgia beats LSU anyway. It doesn't matter. I think USC drops a game. Like I said this week, I got them losing to UCLA. So I'll take Georgia. I think Ohio State beats Michigan. Please do it. Please do it. And then TCU and Tennessee is who I got.
Those
are not moving off it until somebody actually loses.
Top 4. Is that what I had last week too?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you don't. I don't know. Because you had Texas beating TCU. I think you had SCN.
Yeah. Well, I change it now.
TCU's got you a believer now that they ended your parlay.
Yes. Well, I only picked Texas because of my parlay, but and it seemed like a ballsy pick, but that would help us the most, I think, because if we were undefeated, TCU's undefeated, Georgia's undefeated, they have to put TCU. They cannot avoid that rematch and put Tennessee above an undefeated conference champion. So
I agree. I'm moving to agreement with you that they'll just have the rematch. They have to.
Their hands will be tied there. And then we're going to play TCU, which I think would be a great matchup for us.
I agree.
And then hope to God Tennessee pulls off the upset because I think we can smack Tennessee, but not as confident against Georgia.
I'm feeling pretty similar to you on all aspects there. We'll go back through our picks real quick, and then we'll record our CFP ranking reaction podcast. Those are very instant reactions, though, and sorry it screwed up this podcast in general a little bit. Me watching this damn rankings coming out. Stupid basketball. Now we'll talk about basketball later on in the year. All right, so we all three have Ohio State minus 27.5. I have Michigan minus 18, Clemson minus 19, South Carolina plus 21.5, and UCLA plus 2.5. You have Illinois plus 18, Georgia minus 22.5, Penn State minus 19, and Purdue minus 20, because you like to pick these shit games. Jason has Tulane minus 3. We didn't even talk about that game, but we're not going to. Just know that Jason has Tulane minus 3. UCLA plus 2.5 as well. South Carolina plus 21.5 as well. And Kansas plus 9. That'll do it for this week. Check out our CFP ranking reaction we're about to make so we can yell at the committee for doing exactly what we thought they would do. And like us, subscribe, comment, follow us on Twitter at ViewFromCDeck. Or don't, because fuck Elon. We'll talk to you guys later.
Hey guys! Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but there